So most of you know me. I am the president of the radio club for the second year. And this is one of our RCA member networking series. So as we did earlier in the year and into last year, we started to frame these not just for people to network that are members, but also to have a theme. So this is really company, World Communications International, and we're going to talk with her about some of the things that she's done with her company and how she's managed to improve it and so forth. So with that, we got about 1 minute left, but I think we can start. So Maggie, I've read your resume and it's quite interesting, but why don't you give us in your own words some of your background, some of your career, and how you got into this crazy world of wireless.
Okay. Well, I graduated from the University of California, Santa Barbara in 2009, which some of you may remember what the job market was at I would have said all-time low, but the last few years have proven otherwise. So my dad invited me to start working for him. Neither of us thought that 14 years later, I'd still be working for him, but here we are. So really the question's kind of more, how did he get into wireless? And he started with Motorola in his 20s. And that took him overseas. He lived in Asia 12 years, building relationships and representing Motorola and being a dealer of LMR. And then he kind of started selling the MyCom when it first came about in the 70s. Fast forward, he came back to the United States. He was still selling LMR and also promoting the MyCom. And then in like 1988, he decided to branch off on his own and form Royal Communications, which I joined 20 years later. And we are still doing wireless. When I started, we were definitely doing a lot more Motorola, UHF, VHF, and then we really started going into representing HF, the MyCom specifically, and we were the sole distributor for North America for a decade until Elbit Systems, who is the final manufacturer of the MyCom, decided to cut the product line, and that's when we switched over to Barrett. So HF is definitely still what we've kind of represent, and that's like our bread and butter, like I said. So yeah, I guess I started with him as an account executive, and it was kind of a unique situation because it was just the two of us plus our accountant who we've had for 27 years. So I really got to learn all sides of the business. I got to learn customer service and sales and quoting and invoicing and it was really unique in that aspect. Like I really got to see full circle how businesses ran and get like a taste of everything. So I kind of built my way up and then became CEO, and he was kind of grooming me to take over the business, and he planned to retire, but he's never going to retire. He just had dreams of doing it, but he loves working too much. So we incorporated and I became 51% owner. So we are a woman-owned small business. And then in I could be wrong on the dates, but like around 2012, we brought on Tom Haggerty, who's an HF expert, and he's our CTO, and he also does sales, but he does all of the service, repairs, training. He can answer any technical question. So he really does that side, and I do more of the operations side. And we've kind of we're a close-knit team. I would say we all three talk on the phone 10 times a day. So we're still very much a small business. And yeah, that's kind of where we are today.
So what I'm getting from this, Maggie, is that for a while, your dad sold both land mobile radio products and HF SSB products. The company really today is focused only on HF SSB radios. Is that correct?
90% of it, yeah, along with antennas and modems and stuff like that. But yeah.
But it's also supporting the let's call them the shortwave bands for a better way, high frequency bands, not UHF VHF stuff particularly.
We do We dabble with Asia, VHF, UHF, but mostly HF. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. By the way, those of you that have joined us late, I'm asking you all to please mute your microphones. I have a series of questions I'll be asking Maggie in the next 20 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for questions. And if you raise your hands after that point, you can ask Maggie whatever questions may come up. So um, tell us a little bit about Royal, Maggie. What kind of customers do you have? And what is the nature of the business? Do you build radios, or do you sell them or service them? What exactly is it?
We sell and service, and we're just finishing out the last bit of MyCom, and now we represent Barrett, and we do sales and service, mostly in the US now. Before MyCom, we were doing more international. Now we pretty much are just focused on the US market. Most of our customers, I would say, tend to be in the federal government, various agencies, without going into too much detail, but also state, and then of course, the amateurs and the hams, we do still have a market with them too.
Interesting. So you have a fair amount of government business, it sounds like, right?
Yes, we do have a lot of government business.
Okay. I'm going to ask you something about that, because I used to do government business also for a while. That can be very challenging, can it? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of rules and regulations you have to follow and so forth. Is that difficult for a smaller company, or are you guys just used to doing that?
I feel like we've been doing it so long. I never would have thought I'd get into government contracting, but that's definitely where it turned. And like you said, it can be complicated. There's definitely the hard part, I feel like, with government contracting too, is it seems like the rules and regulations and FARs and clauses are always changing. And not only that, but the tool that they use for procurement is always changing. Like it's FBO and FedBid, and then there's all the state ones. And so you kind of have to like keep up on being registered for everything and know where they're posting stuff. Then yeah, there's a lot to it.
Okay, but you guys have been doing it for quite a while, so you can handle it. That's good. So you told me something new, that mainly your business is in the US now and not so much international. So how do you handle the service and installation issues, either in the US or for some of your international customers that you still have? I mean, you're not a huge company, so that can't be easy to do.
We, technology's made it way easier to be able to, like, for instance, if it's something going wrong, to remote diagnose. Tom can do that certainly via like Zoom half the time. But as far as like doing installations, a lot of the people we've channel partnered with are like a full service shop, and they can do it. So that's usually who we work with, would be like a wireless distributor that's come to us for HF. That's not normally what they sell, but they know about it and they know how to install it. So Tom has traveled, and we've both traveled a little bit to various places, but we tend to keep it in the US.
So these channel partners, do you have to train them on HFSSB, because it's probably a little uncommon for them to have experience in it?
Well, the great thing we have found actually from switching to the Barrett from the MyCom, a lot of the feedback we've gotten is that it's really user friendly. And, now they have all the bells and whistles where it's basically like operating off your phone or iPad. So a lot of people don't need as much of the technical training. I would say where the installation more comes in is antennas. And so most of the people we would sell to already have someone that can do that. But as far as using the radio, we've found that it's like very easy, user friendly.
Right, because those radios today in those markets have automatic link establishment and stuff
Exactly.
like that makes things easy. But as you know, the antennas are so important at HFSSB, that I would have thought that antenna selection, given you know, the distances that people are trying to cover and stuff would be important. So is that where your CTO, Tom, gets involved and helps the customers to,
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. And what's really cool is a lot of the times he can look up the exact location on Google Earth, and he can see, oh, what terrain are they working with? Can we install in that building? And he can, based on just doing Google searches and asking the customer several questions, how far are you trying to reach? Where is this going? He can recommend an antenna, and that's usually works pretty well. Sometimes people do still want a site survey, and we provide that, but a lot of times it can be done just through the internet.
So why are your customers still using HFSSB, given that we live in a world where we have satellites and you know, all kinds of other links? What is the attraction in the eyes of your customers to using HFSSB?
Well, I think our customers generally are, besides the amateur operators who do this for maybe a hobby or what have you, but a lot of, like, from focusing on our federal, our government contractors, they have realized that when there is a blackout or a natural disaster and satellites are out and the internet's out, HF is truly the only thing that works. So I wish that more people would realize that, and it doesn't take a natural disaster when there's no communication for people to know that, like, the old style of communication is truly what works, and that's HF. It's, I should say, is the most reliable.
Hmm. You know, a lot of people have been encountering supply chain issues, and in fact, we ran a panel on that back in March that was pretty well attended. Tell me about what sort of supply chain issues are you seeing, and how have you been able to deal with it?
We've definitely experienced supply chain issues. The MyCom radio, when they ended production in 2020, I'm hoping we finish our last orders this month. It has taken that long with the amount of factory closures due to COVID, a lot of it, or other, you know, trying to source parts where there are other factory shutdowns. It has taken so long to finish that out, and it has been keeping me up at night, and it's very hard to tell a customer, I know you placed this order in September of 2020 and we still don't have it, but I'm doing my best. Most people are pretty understanding about it. The nice thing now, I would say, about our new line of business dealing with Barrett is a lot of it's manufactured in the US. So we're able to ship 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes 30 days. So that's made a huge difference. But really, you know, it gets to the point where I'm like, I hate to use COVID as an excuse, but it truly is what's taking so long. And there are multiple antenna manufacturers that come to my mind. Even last week when I was giving someone a quote, that they said the lead time is a year. Sorry. That's just what it is to be able to get all the parts they need, and everything, not just sourcing parts, but everything is so backlogged because of it that they're still filling orders from so long ago. So I think everyone is probably in the industry has experienced major supply chain issues. And then I would say lately, besides supply chain issues, is shipping issues. As we all know, gas prices have increased so much that, and then international, there just isn't room on flights. So we've had a major issue with that, and being able to provide quotes to people. Like, I know some vendors just won't quote shipping right now because it's vastly changing. And we've definitely lost a lot of money on, you know, you quote something in November, they buy it, they get their budget, they buy it December, January, we don't ship till February, March. And by then shipping's tripled. But, you know, one thing I've learned from my dad's experience and expertise is that the customer is always right. And even if you lose money in the short term, you provide good service and just good business to people, and you attract good people. And so, you know, that's, I would say that's the biggest supply thing we're dealing with at the moment is shipping. Something's ready and we can't ship it for 30 days. There's no room on the plane. There's no room on a boat, or a boat takes 3 times as long.
Yeah. Wow. So even things like antennas have parts that are sourcing from Asia.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Wow.
Yes.
So for those of you that are not familiar with it, we did do this supply chain panel, and I don't believe it's up on the RCA YouTube channel yet, but we do intend to make that available. That was about 90 minutes, 5 different companies, and we talked a lot about different ways to work around, and some of them were pretty extreme. And because I'm not manufacturing myself anymore, I was really surprised at how much energy people are putting into getting stuff shipped. So uh, that will be up and available shortly. Okay, Maggie, that's great. So you mentioned something that keeps you up at night. Are there any other things besides supply chain that keep you up at night with Royal?
You mentioned government contracting. That can be stressful. You never know. There's so many ins and outs of how they choose. It's not always based on price, and you don't really get a chance. So if there's like a bid out there and you have like a cutoff date, you don't know. You might meet all the technical side, but your price is higher, or maybe your price is lower, but there's one technical thing they were looking for. So sometimes that can be hard to navigate when you just don't know what they're focused on. And, it's not like a customer I can call, hey, John, okay, what do you need? And how can I work with you? It's all just, the procurement person looks at the numbers and they pass it on to someone else who looks at the technical side. And, you don't have relationship building, I guess, is the hard part with that, where you can like talk to someone on the phone. It's everyone has a different job and part of it, and sometimes they aren't even connected, so they're not communicating. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I can
Okay.
imagine you seem very customer oriented, and the company seems very customer oriented, but
Absolutely.
government procurement is anathema to that, because you're just dealing with people you never see really, right? And by the time you get to know them, they probably have changed again. So that's got to be frustrating.
There's definitely a big job turnover there for sure.
So, but you're a woman-owned business, so surely there are some advantages to you in that, or is that just a check mark and then they get back to price and say you're too high?
I think it helps. I've talked to people who say it helps. As many boxes you can tick, it helps. Better known, tribal, there's a ton. I feel like they keep adding them. So I think any of it helps, but doesn't necessarily mean you'll win it.
Understood. So you have a small team, but a powerful team. What's your philosophy about hiring people and then keeping good people on board once you hire them? It seems like today we got the great wave of people resigning their jobs. How do you keep the people that you've got happy?
We've really, instead of hiring employees, we've really found that we've built relationships over the years, and a lot of the people we work with are ham operators who just love HF and love our radio, and they like to promote it. So they go around as like a hobby, almost promoting something they really love and believe in, and anything they bring to us, they're compensated for, and we work with them. So it's kind of how we've built our network. And then we've also partnered with bigger companies, ACG Systems. They hold the Barrett radio for us on their GSA contract, and we've been working with them for years and years. So we do have, we've worked with Bearcom, we've worked with other companies, bigger companies, but we tend to, for the most part, just build relationships on a handshake, how it used to be done.
Wow. What a novel concept.
Right? And it doesn't always work. I'd like to say when you give good service and trust in people, you receive it back, but we've definitely fallen victim to fraud. And at one point it was really my fault. We sent $20,000 worth of antennas. By the time I realized it wasn't going to who they said they were in Nigeria, and we were just out of money.
Oh my. Oh,
So that does still happen, but you know, you still got to keep the faith and go with your gut on people you trust. And that's kind of how we've built our network.
wow, that was a bitter lesson.
Yeah, it was.
So, do you have any advice, Maggie, for younger people that either are getting into wireless or would one day want that you've done as an operations manager and then as CEO? What advice do you have for younger people?
I would say you know, most of the people I've met a lot of them have been in this business a long time. So I would say trying to learn every skill you can from the people around you, and just try to find out like what maybe you're good at. What, like I've learned so many unique skills through my 14 years. Like I've said, I've gotten to learn a little bit of everything. I never would have thought I would become a pro at government contracting, but here I am. So I think just really absorbing all of the people around you in your job that you can, and learn different skills, and then focus on what you're good at, I guess. I don't know if that really is part of wireless or any job, but
You're a lifelong learner, it sounds like.
yes. Love to learn new skills.
Well, that's great. Okay, so I've been asking you a bunch of questions. I want to remind everybody to please mute yourselves normally, but if you have a question for Maggie, please raise your hand or send a question in via chat, and we'll let you ask those questions.
Oh, I do see one in the chat. Is their company going to display at Hamvention? I don't believe we have plans to, but if we're getting feedback that we should, then that's definitely something we can look into. We'll write that down.
Yeah, I saw that too. Okay. So if anybody else has a question for for Mag, please put it in chat. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And we'll see what comes up. And if no questions come up in a moment, I have a few more. Oh, okay, Carl.
Hello there. Little late getting in. We had some problem with the internet here, and I'm on my cell phone version, which is kind of limited here. First of all, congratulations, Maggie. I don't know if you recognize the name, but when your dad was kind of homesick, living out there in Asia and wanted to get home to America, I worked it out to recommend him to join our team of the HF sideband consultants and got him back. And then after things settled down, he wound up being my boss, but more than that, a friend, and have a great respect for him. And it's probably one of the very best salesmen that I've ever encountered, and straight honest. So I'm happy that you're doing well. Those kinds of problems you're talking about with shipping, I've been encountering myself, just building up a ham station. Redoing computer systems. I've been waiting for 3 months for a very large super hard drive to come in from you know where, chop suey electronics, but it's very, very frustrating. One problem you mentioned about the Nigeria thing, another one we used to see in Motorola contracting would be the guy that has got one telex machine or a computer is in a one-man office with a very big title, but he would be dangling 1,000-unit order, but he'd like to take 2 as a sample first at that 1,000-unit price. Of course, you never hear from him again. But I'm sure you're much too wise for that these days. Regarding information, I'm still pretty good. I still get, after all these years, still get questions from old clients about HF systems and maritime things and that sort of. If you ever come across that or need an extra guy, I'm well retired down here near Tarpon Springs, Florida, My wife being Greek, she's happy as can be, and I'm more than happy to be of service to you. My email is my ham call. I have two of them. I have a single core sheet, but you'll get writer's cramp typing that out. But WA2KBZ at Yahoo gets me right away. It's Whiskey Alpha 2 Kilo Bravo Zulu at Yahoo, or Signal Core Chief at Gmail. And to be more than welcome to help out in any way.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, go ahead,
sorry,
Maggie.
John.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Carl, I thank you for all the nice words about my dad. He's actually in attendance tonight, but I have met so many people along the way who say the same thing as you. And that speaks to, the start of the wireless industry. I feel like so many of you started maybe with Motorola and are still in the business, which is so crazy so many years later. And I've heard so many stories, probably not all that I need to hear, about my dad in Asia and how the good times and all of that. So I think that's a testament to kind of the close-knit community that wireless has built, that you guys still have a connection so many years later. And again, John, here's an example of someone who now could sell some Barrett radios or help us do an install, or, that's how we've really built our partnerships with people, is those like 30-year-old, 40-year-old connections, whatever they may be.
If he's listening, I'm just telling him I'm very happy to see him alive and kicking and doing well. And I know he's proud as punch as his little girl Maggie doing what she's doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm sure he'll chime in maybe at some point, but yep, he's still working. I don't think he'll ever retire. He loves it too much.
Thanks, Carl. We got a question here from actually Margaret Lyons. She said, I've heard you mention Barrett radios made in the USA. Has this made any difference with your government contracting, the fact that they are US manufactured?
Definitely. I definitely think that that's something we always try to, highlight in bold, made in the USA. I mean, it should be important, I would think, but it's definitely one of those, another check box to put in there, manufactured in the USA. But the biggest thing I feel like is it really has cut down on the lead time too, which has been great.
Well, that makes sense. Another question from Jerry Kessler was, what percentage of HF sales are data versus voice application? In other words, are some of them data only and some of them voice only, or are they all combined? Most customers using both voice and data?
No one's ever asked me that question. Not everyone's using data, but a lot of it is combined. I don't even think I could guess the percentage. Because some people order modems separately too. So I don't know if I could put a percentage on that question. I could think about it and get back to you, John.
Okay, that'd be great. Sure. If you can do that, Maggie, we'll post it to people. Another question came from Ron Jakubowski. He said he was curious about the amateur radio users of your radios. Do you know how they're using it? Are they using it on Mars channels or shares channels where automatic link establishment is desired? Or
Yes.
Are they, okay, that is the use case.
Yes, and we have special Mars shares pricing. So send me an email and we can talk.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes, I mean, we would love to get a radio in the hands of everyone who wants one, and we're always willing to work with someone as best we can, because I know that a lot of people who are doing this more for a hobby, they can get pricey.
So that's come up. Ed asked a question of never heard about these transceivers. I'm assuming he means Barrett. Do you plan to market to hams? Just as a clarification, I'm not terribly familiar with the product line either, but as far as I know, these are channelized radios, as opposed to radios that hams typically use, where you can tune all the frequency within a band, say the 40-meter band or the 20-meter band. So would I be correct in saying that these are channelized radios and are more used, like the last question said, for Mars or shares, where there's a specific channel that they're supposed to be on?
Yes, they're definitely more, they're free tuned, but they're a non-tactical commercial radio.
Okay, but you can tune across the band with them.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Dennis Marin, I knew your dad when he was in the parts. He was a parts manager at El Segundo. I see that Royal is now focusing on domestic business. So happy that he had named you CEO of the company. How is your dad involved in the business now? You mentioned several times he won't retire.
Well, being frankly honest, I have 2 children and I work from home. So I would say, you know, we've all found what we're good at. And for me, I'm good at getting someone a quote as soon as possible. I'm good at doing some of the sales and the follow-ups and the shipping, and, you know, the list goes on. But my dad is really good at building connections. And I say that being kind, saying he's really good at talking. So he does a lot of the phone calls and the talking with everyone, and then calls me, and I take care of the rest.
Okay, that makes sense. So you
So
guys,
if I have a crying baby in the background, I don't have to worry about it. I do more of the interface via email.
That's great.
Well, you know my John, you know my dad for years. You know, you guys, I'm sure, can talk for hours and hours.
Yes.
You can attest to that.
Yes, I can. Okay. Anybody else have more questions for Maggie? I mean, we got a chance to talk to a CEO of a kind of a different company, because I would call you kind of sales and distribution as opposed to manufacturing. And we've got a number of people that have been involved in manufacturing companies, but it clearly shows, based on what you've said, Maggie, that there's a place for good distribution companies to give the customer service and provide the middleman kind of support the big manufacturers don't necessarily want to do. Go ahead.
Oh, you were freezing for a second. But we do manufacture a few things ourselves too, not the radios, but we have some antennas we manufacture and some accessories and stuff like that. And we've definitely ourselves seen supply chain issues. Our manufacturing is on a smaller scale. So generally some of the small parts we need, if we can't get it from our normal person, we can find it sometimes from somewhere else, which is a little more helpful than I know some of the bigger manufacturers who don't have a second line of purchasing. But yeah, we do manufacture some stuff ourselves too.
Okay, I stand corrected. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Oh, fine.
William Luck said, how much of your HF business is to states as opposed to federal agencies?
You know, I really should actually add it up and look year to year. I would say probably 70-30 federal to state. Maybe 60-40. Definitely over 50%, I would say, goes to federal.
Over 50% to federal.
Yes.
Okay. Jerry Kessler was commented, surprised to hear that the MyCom line was terminated. Can you explain what happened? This is not a short story.
Well, if you've been following the MyCom, it started in the 70s with Motorola, and I might get some wrong along the way, but it went to Tataran at some point, and then long story short, it wound up with Elbit Systems, and they just really couldn't keep up with the technology. They just didn't want to. They're $1 billion company, and HF was still such a small, even if we brought them millions in sales, it was such a small part to what they do. They just wouldn't give it priority, and they eventually decided to just, it wasn't worth it to them to nix it. I wish there was like in some world where we could buy it from them, because we did love the MyCom, but we have found with the Barrett, we feel like it's the best in the market now, and they have kept up with the technology and have all the bells and whistles that a lot of people really do look for. So that's been the nice change.
Wasn't at one point there some talk of some of the ex-Motorola Israeli guys buying the business out and starting to manufacture it, or am I misremembering?
No. There was. I don't know the details of exactly what transpired with that. I think they wanted to keep it an Israeli-based company, but I'm not sure. But basically, it's ended with them not willing to sell it, but also not manufacture it. I think in the end, it's worked out better for us. I know there are probably a lot of MyCom users who, we get calls from people that ask us if we can do a repair on their MyCom that they've had for over 30 years. Like, these radios don't die. They're good radios. So I can understand why some people were upset, and so were we. But I think everyone who does eventually make the switch would be happy with the Barrett.
So David New has an interesting question. He's curious about the secure communications and frequency hopping aspects. Do you have a large clientele interested in such features? There must be export issues, insistence on domestic encryption and key escrow. You want to comment on that if you can, Maggie?
We didn't have frequency hopping with the MyCom. The Barrett does have it now. I haven't found that a lot of people want it. There definitely are different encryption options that a lot of the federal government agency use, and there are export issues. I haven't found any of the export issues to really be a big deal. But as far as frequency hopping, I haven't really seen a lot of need for it, that a lot of customers need that.
Of the customers that you have?
Yeah, sorry, of the customers I have, exactly.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So what's the future for Royal? What are you guys going to do in the next several years? Are you going to expand your offerings? Are you going to get back into some land mobile radio, or what are you thinking? And don't give away any trade secrets here, please.
No, I don't have any of those. I think continue to try to preach the importance of HF and hope that at least with our government that people get the budget for it, because we really do believe that it's an important line of communication for an emergency. We have been trying to reach out to all of the FEMA alerting authorities and EOC offices and just trying to market ourselves and market the importance of HF. We also definitely would love to build more of a relationship with the amateur line and shares and Mars and all of that. I know that sometimes that just comes down to budget too, but we definitely try to do the best we can and would love to get HF and the Barrett more out there. That's kind of where I see us going. Continue to manufacture our own stuff. And as far as LMR, I don't know if we'll go back to LMR really.
Okay.
Our sales have been smaller in that, and that was mostly international, so that always gets kind of tricky too with shipping now, and we'll see. Never know.
We had a very early. I'm sorry. Did
Okay.
somebody
It was
speak?
Carl. I'm having a little hard time on the hand up and down. It doesn't come on my screen. I would like to interject something if I may.
Of course.
Go ahead.
First of all, I go back with MyCon to the beginning. I defined the features, small plug-in modules and so forth, squelch, and as I defined the features of the very first MyCom and had some design inputs, travel all around the world with it. But my other alternate ego is a chief warrant officer for Signal Corps and National Guard. And I did spend time at the Pentagon, not only installing the headquarters, but going around various states, showing them how to do it and help get it as part of Operation Secure for the whole the country as part of the Y2K business. But as a result of political pressures, they had to buy half of one of someone else's radio and half of ours. And the people that got unlucky had the TWC. I stopped that, and the reason I bring this up is that in your competition with some of the other HF companies, you may find that they have a wonderful brochure. You bring tears to your eyes to see what a wonderful radio this must be based on that brochure. And the experience I had with TWC at the Illinois and the Wisconsin Guard, I borrowed from Motorola company, was nice enough to loan this warrant officer a very high-end spectrum analyzer, which I set up in Illinois and up in Wisconsin, and to teach the radio people, the CSMS it's called, how to use it and how to test radios. And so when the TWC guy came in, we found out that, which I already knew, that the thing drifted all over the place. They had just all kinds of harmonic distortion. It only vaguely resembled the radio that's on the sheet. And over the years, we found that was very often true. So you might want to get an evaluation sample of some of your competitors in an upcoming bid, for example, for government people, and see if they're lying to their teeth or not. And so that has helped. And I also I also worked with a team on ALE to get that going, the regional standard 1045. And there's a gentleman, he's retired now, but at the I just went blank. The Mitre company, and he was the man that invented that. Same fellow, by the way, that made the laser tag system for the Army. So we went in there and found out that when I was at the National Guard headquarters and at the Pentagon, that the people were saying that they were fully compliant. TWC was one, RF Harris was one, and it turned out that it wasn't so. So I had this gentleman come out, and he gave us a lecture and compared them with various representatives and pointed out the only radio that was fully compliant was Motorola's. And the reason that you can't connect to TWC is because they're only slightly compliant. So you may, I might be able to come up with some help for you.
I think I want to move on.
That's what I was saying is that you have a big market in the National Guard. Every state has a federal connection plus an intrastate connection. So there are that's a market you might want to penetrate. They may be ready for a refit.
Well, Carl, send me an email. It's Maggie@Royal-Communication, and we can connect and talk more about that.
Surely.
Yeah, that would be great. Carl, you have a lot of background in this.
Yeah.
A couple of things. Questions have just come up, and we got a very early comment about going to Hamvention. So Hamvention has 20,000-30,000 radio amateurs. In recent times, it was closed for 2 years. So if you're thinking about going after a portion of the amateur market, maybe just the Mars and those that use shares, this person, Jay Schwartz, is definitely suggesting that you need to start exhibiting it at Dayton. It's just 2 days, but it's a crazy 2 days. Dave New had a very interesting question, which is also one that I would be interested in. On the subject of repairability, are the new radios just a board swap? Because most radios today have surface mount devices, and everything is very hard to unsolder and so forth like that. Do you know offhand, Maggie, is your CTO able to repair at the board level, or can they still repair at the component level?
Well, I know for the 4050 there are 3 boards, and yeah, he can do any of the repairs. Does that answer the question fully?
Well, are you saying that he does the repairs by board swap, or does he also make component changes?
Board swap.
Board swap, okay. So basically, radios today are all board swap, even the HFSSP radios. Okay.
And
That's
then
good.
he can replace the surface mount as well.
Okay, yeah, some people can do that. It's not the easiest thing, but a lot of people have developed that capability. So so your current supplier of radios are made in the USA, but I assume that they still get parts from Asia, so they themselves may encounter supply chain issues. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so we have the radio that we've marketed the most is the 4050, and we have the ability and the stock to build. I mean, of course, if someone came in with an order for 100, it might be a little more difficult, but for most of the orders we're getting, we can build those pretty quickly. Some of the bigger radios, like the 4075 or the backpack radios, might have a lot more of the manufacturing parts in Australia. But honestly, compared to the MyCom, I haven't seen as much of delays in it's lately come down with Australia to the shipping more than anything else, more than the parts. It's been shipping issues.
But didn't you say that the Barrett radio was made in the USA?
Yes, so it's their big manufacturer, because they do more than HF. They're based in Australia, but they have Barrett USA who builds the 4050 here, and some of the other radios are still built in Australia, but the 4050s and most of it is built in the USA. Which I guess I should say for the USA market. They have representatives and dealers all around the world, which is why we do a lot less international. They already have representatives, and they are buying them usually from Australia.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so moving forward, what are you likely to be hiring more people in the future, would you say? Or are you pretty good with the team you've got and it supports the business level that you have?
I think we're good with the team we have currently. I would never say that we wouldn't hire more people. That would mean that the business is continuing to grow, but we definitely have found for us, it works to work with people like Carl, who are kind of retired, but also still really like HF, and they have maybe some connection somewhere, and we send them a radio and they go do a demo, and then we, kind of go from there. We have a lot of partners like that, I would say, more than hiring someone who's a 9-to-5.
Okay. Yeah, so they're remote workers and they're paid on a 1099 and
Exactly.
not employees. Yeah.
We even have some that do it just to, they like kind of built credit with us in a way, and then they buy just more radios and parts and antennas for themselves, for their hobby.
Are there any big untapped markets that you think at some point you might begin to do more work with? Or maybe you don't want to reveal that.
No, without revealing too much. I would say I think there really is more of a market, pending on budget for a lot of the states, even sheriff's offices and fire and EOC offices. I think there's a big market there that don't have HF and need it, or will come to realize they need it. And I think that might be the next big focus for us.
Great. Okay, well, we're coming up to about a little more than 10 minutes to go. I'm hoping that all of you are enjoying this. As you know, this is an RCA networking event. It gives a chance for RCA members to join together and see one another. And we've had quite a few participants today, so I thank you for that. And also, I want to thank all of you for being RCA members, because this is an organization whose strength is in its members. We have so many members that have come from different aspects of wireless. My own background is different from other people's backgrounds, and that's what makes us powerful, is that within the Radio Club of America, we're not just land mobile radio or satellites or military communications, but we embrace all the verticals, broadcast, cellular, and so forth. And with some of our partnerships that we have, we are able to strengthen those things. And when we go to a networking meeting, whether it be or our annual event in November, which will be in Atlanta this year, it will be live. That's when part of the power really comes in, because you get to talk to people that you haven't seen for a while that might come from a completely different vertical, and you pick up something that makes sense for your vertical. So that's the power of the Radio Club of America, and always has been. Okay, so I'm not getting too many more questions right now. Those of you that have been sitting on a question or a thought, please send it in. Maggie, what sort of parting thoughts would you give to people entering this business of wireless, besides being a lifelong learner, which is clearly what you did? Have you got any words of wisdom for people?
Words of wisdom for specific to wireless.
Well, the industry, getting into the industry.
I mean, I would say just making connections wherever you can. Join the RCA club and learn from others and different sides of it. You know, it was interesting the first few years I attended the IWCE, and my dad knew so many people. Kind of at the end of it, I was like, I need to start making my own network, because a lot of these people are pretty close to retirement. Which I know you and I have discussed before. How could we get younger people involved? Which I've definitely seen more of as the IWC got bigger and bigger. There was definitely a younger crowd as well. But yeah, I would say learn from all the people around you, all the people that have pioneered it, like Carl. And you know, it would be interesting if you did a poll on how many RCA members at one point worked for Motorola.
Yes, that would be very interesting. There's quite a few of us, for sure. And along that line, I want to make a point that was in your resume, and but we didn't particularly mention it, is that you won the IWCE Young Professionals Award last year. There, oh wow!
Proudly on my desk.
Thank you. You know, I never get to see them except briefly when we give them out.
Yeah, I got it right here. They actually sent me someone else's, but I sent it back. So hopefully he got it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh man.
Shipping issues happen. I know them well.
Yes, I recently got a letter in the mail from something, and the outside had my name on it, but the inside, it started with a form letter, said "Dear Joe," not "Dear John," and it was really weird. So Ed has asked the question that I knew was going to come up: does Maggie have a ham radio license?
I do. I have a general license, and you know, once I'm past the phase of toddlers and babies in diapers, I might actually get to use that license a little more.
Yes, I'm sure you're a busy person right now.
Yes, I have an 11-month-old, so he keeps me on my toes.
Well, that's nice. Okay, so Carl is suggesting the Orlando Winterfest. Many Latin Americans within many government and commercial connections. Carl, are you? I'm not sure if you're talking about the winter hamcation, or you're talking about something different.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Well, the big Orlando Winter Ham Fest is sort of like Dayton South, and there is a large participation. The one time that I've been there for Motorola paying the way, it was very heavily populated by Latin American folks who, they're maybe Venezuelan ham, but it turns out he also is an official in the government or has connections to the big two-way radio company, that sort of thing. It's just another place to maybe throw up a booth and wave the flag. You never can help if you don't put hooks in the water, you don't catch any fish. It's possible, and it
Very
also
true.
it's a good time to be down in Florida because it's nice and warm down.
Well,
And if your dad were or you to go, I'd love to take the time to go up and see you.
We will definitely let you know. I get a lot of good weather here in San Diego, but I wouldn't miss an opportunity to go on vacation to Florida either.
there you go. All right. You're definitely being encouraged to go to Dayton Hamvention next year. Now you've revealed that you are a licensed radio amateur. So I have nothing to add to that comment whatsoever. Okay. Last chance to ask Maggie a question. Maggie, I really want to thank you for being with us, for sharing your thoughts of what it's like to run a company that's focused on HFSSB, but evolved from, doing all kinds of things internationally, both land mobile radio, also HFSSB, and now primarily focused on HFSSB and primarily focused on US markets. So that's great. All right. I don't see anything else except people are saying they really enjoyed the event. I'm glad you did. Thank you all so much.
I just wanted to say that, there's definitely, I haven't attended many of these events. I've done a few with you, John, at the breakfast events at the IWCE, but there definitely is a sense of community. So you asked what advice could be to younger crowds would be to join something like this, because I've already received some really good feedback and possibly some shows that we can meet some new people at. And I think it's a good, encouraging community. And I love anything that builds everyone up, I appreciate it. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Maggie. And that's what we're about. I mean, what the Radio Club is really about is the camaraderie among people who have been working in wireless, and how can we share ideas between and among us to help the next person get to the next level that they want to get to. So that's what it's always been about.
You can definitely feel that.
Well, that's good. We're doing something right.
Yes.
All right. We're going to end the session. Thank you all very much. And Maggie, thank you again for your time.
Thank you, John. Feel better.
Yeah, thanks. Good night,
Okay,
everyone.
bye, everyone.